Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Rune, and today we're playing as Lilith, one of those characters that's been slowly becoming one of my favorites just because she has such a unique playstyle with how you aim and how you shoot and how kind of different items work with her. But I also like that she isn't an automatic character, and by that I mean, even though she's this familiar oriented character, you would think that you would just pick up any familiar, because obviously if you have 10 of them, if you duplicate them, then you're gonna have 20, and having extra, basically any familiar will get duplicated and your damage output will get doubled. But that's not necessarily true, just because the more familiars you have, the longer the line is, because the familiars get added at the end of each other, which means that the fifth familiar will be farther away than maybe your second familiar, and that will actually make it much harder to focus your DPS on a single target. And for that reason, you just don't want to pick up any familiar. I think they're still effective up to maybe 3 or 4, but when you get beyond that number, it actually becomes progressively harder to hit enemies with those familiars that are at the end. So you really want more passive familiars there. So familiars maybe like Rotten Baby, or maybe like the Automatic Baby, which shoots the Demon Baby, or anything like that doesn't really affect its position, but you want the shooting familiars like Little Brimstone or maybe Incubus to be at the start or as close as as possible, just because it makes it much easier to actually shoot, of course, because you can then focus more of that DPS on the single target you actually want to hit. With that said, even though I mentioned I like Lilith a lot, the Devil Deal had a Guppy item, so the Guppy's head, and it also had a Dark Judas transformation. So what I plan on doing is actually going to the Sacrifice Room and killing myself here. You might be wondering, why would you go here and maybe not the Tribute Room, or that is the Sacrifice Room? Yeah, that is the Sacrifice Room. I meant the Curse Room, because the Curse Room doesn't actually give you any damage penalty, and the Sacrifice Room does, because you end up hitting yourself. I know, you end up hitting yourself in the Curse Room as well, but for some reason they programmed it in a way where you don't get reduced score for hitting there. So that means that we can safely kill ourselves and actually come back as Dark Judas with no penalty to our own. So that means that we don't lose any points. We only get the benefits of being Dark Judas, and the fact is we also get 2 Spirit Hearts in our Curse Room, which is obviously very helpful because we respawn with only 2 Black Hearts, and 2 Black Hearts is maybe enough to sustain a floor, but if we don't get any heart pickups, that becomes progressively harder to kind of keep up, just because eventually some enemies are going to hit us, and especially as we approach these harder floors, a lot of enemies deal a full heart of damage here. But thankfully there are a lot of things we can kind of do here to not only sustain this, but also to kind of keep ourselves afloat. So going to shops, because we do have a lot of money, buying some Spirit Hearts is not out of the question for us. Thankfully also because we managed to reroll the first Gish item into the chocolate milk, combined with the fact that we have a lot of damage now because we're Dark Judas, allows us to really one-shot most enemies, at least most ordinary enemies. It also allows us to kind of melt bosses so easily, just because our damage output is actually kind of ridiculous at this point. And because this run only goes to Mom's Foot, we're pretty much set, so we don't need to pick up more DPS items at all. We only need to focus on actually searching to find a way to go forward to hopefully get more points. And thankfully this opportunity presents itself, because we get 1 Percho rune and we get 4 Awas runes, and that's kind of a bummer because we can only take 1, but we still have 3 left, so that's kind of hard to navigate. But our best chance here is to actually go back to that room and use 3 Awas runes to hopefully one of them will result in a crawl space, and that crawl space can have anything basically for us, but just visiting it will give us some points, and then hopefully maybe it has a good item in it, or if it doesn't have an item, maybe it just has some consumables which we can use to further increase our points. Because at this point, whenever you have a run that only goes to Mom, there are a lot of situations where you find yourself in min-maxing, and that is just more important than on runs that maybe go to Satan, and that's just because the overall number of points you get is lower, so every point matters more. So just for example, maybe if you find a 2 of cards, so a 2 of spades, which duplicates your coins, if you use it on 50 bombs, you would get, duplicates your bombs, not coins. So if you have 50 bombs and you duplicate it, you'll get about 1,000 points. And 1,000 points of 20,000 points is actually 20%, or not 20%, 5%. Which is a lot, you know. But if you have a 50,000 points and you get a card that only has 1,000 points, that percent becomes significantly lower, which means it doesn't have as much of an effect on the run. So it's really important that we try to take as little damage as possible and try to maximize the swag points we get, so the amount of consumables we pick up, just for the sake of trying to be at the top of the leaderboards. And like I said, a matter of 2,000 points makes a big difference here, because people do play differently. and everybody will have a different run, sort of, and it's important for us to actually focus on those things that we can do here. So then sadly the last floor, so the mount floor, has a Curse of Darkness, so that's kind of unfortunate, but we still hold that AWAS rune. And what happened is I picked up the teleporter item, the glitched item, I'm not really sure how it's called, but the glitch item, which is an active item, and whenever you use it, it teleports you to one of those random rooms. It's either the treasure room, it's either the secret room, or the second secret room. It also has a chance to teleport you to the I am error room, but that sadly cannot occur on a run that goes... So that cannot occur on the last floor of the official run. So that means that you cannot use it on the mount floor to access the I am error room and then go to the next floor, so sadly that option is out for us. But what I plan on using it here is actually beating boss rush as fast as possible and using it to get out and explore the rest of the floor. And what would be ideal here is that we would actually get something like a sacrifice room, so that we could actually trade our health away in order to teleport to the dark room. So that means that we would be able to do both boss rush. I would teleport out with my active item, and then I would be able to go to the dark room to get even more points. Sadly, nothing of that happens. We do get teleported out, and we didn't have a sacrifice room, but hopefully maybe there's a chance to actually get a crawl space from the AWAS rune we're going to use when we get out. So that's also the reason why I decided to take the sun card with me, because the sun card helped me clear a room out, and I can still always go back out because I have teleport, obviously, and use that AWAS rune to go forward. Sadly, there isn't much else to do here for us. A few rooms which I have missed before on my way to the boss, which shouldn't be too big of a problem, just because we are very strong. And I really enjoy any run that has chocolate milk in it, because I think it's a very fun item. It rewards kind of patience and good aim, and also the fact that you kind of have to eyeball just how much you can charge your shot before releasing it in order to kind of maximize the efficiency in which you kill your enemies. We do use our AWAS rune, and sadly what it results in is a crawl space, and the crawl space just doesn't lead us to anywhere, so sadly that's the end of the run. But thankfully, because I managed to play pretty well, only got hit 3 times or 4 times, I think 3 of those times was on boss rush, our score was actually pretty decent, or at least our damage penalty was rather low. The fact we also got some Shrek bonus, so a lot of consumables, means that we ranked 52nd, which is a great run, and I hope we'll be able to continue this trend of having good scores for the days to come. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.